Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
This week at Safeway, shop the 10 for $10 produce sale. With the 10 for $10 produce sale, get items like large avocados, mangoes, green, red, orange, or yellow bell peppers, cucumbers, large lemons, or 16-ounce bags of Signature Farms baby-peeled carrots for the member price of just $1 each. Plus, select meats like Signature Farms 80% lean ground beef and Signature Select extra meaty pork loin back ribs are buy one, get one free this week. Hurry in before these deals are gone. Visit Safeway.com for more deals.
Hello, Nest family. Talk about a troublesome pre-season. Great to be with you. Fortunately not in the best spirits, but we'll start on a positive note, Drew Jones, because I tell you what, if ever the term the thorn between the roses had to be applied, it would be to you yesterday at the Fox Footy launch. My goodness, my friend.
Yeah, no,
it is
thanks.
irrelevant.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, I teed that photo up from a long way out because I was hoping it might get some social coverage. I struggle, as a general rule, to get many hits and clicks on my social pipes. But if you get three beautiful and talented women in the photo with you, generally good things happen. So shout out to Kath Lochnan, Kath Durkin, and Chloe Malloy. Couple of WA folk in the middle, and then Chloe, as we know, really talented footballer for Collingwood, and Kath Durkin's an up-and-comer who works with us on AFL Tonight. So, yeah, that was a good day. Lots of heavy hitters in the room, not me not being one of them, but, set for a big season. Thanks for that, Garby. I thought I was looking okay with the light blue jacket number. What do you think?
I think you look fantastic, and it just sums up the calibre of the Nest, that we've got a Fox Footy icon on board with us throughout the season to talk West Coast Eagles matters. We wish, though, Drewy, that we were doing so on better terms. We said last season it was one of the most disappointing campaigns that the Eagles have ever had. I mean, I can't cast my mind all the way back, but I'd be absolutely staggered if the Eagles had had a worse preseason injury-wise. We don't know about everything else. We don't know about the attitude. We don't know about the game plan yet, although the signs weren't good against Freo. But injury-wise, I don't know if the club's ever had a worse preseason. And then some other stuff on top of injuries, of course, which everyone is all too familiar with right now.
Yeah, if we put it in a footy prism, given what is going on in, say, Queensland and Europe at the moment, it's been a catastrophic pre-season from a football sense for West Coast. And I think we've even said previously at the end of last season, if everything goes right this pre-season, then maybe 2022 we can have one last chance. Well, the absolute opposite has happened. The pre-season has been checkered with off-field stuff, which obviously we've already covered. And then the injuries have just made it sort of unbearable. So the list we've got in front of us, Elliot Yeo, Luke Shuey hamstring, who we're not quite sure on, Oscar Allen foot, who knows how long he's out for, Dom Sheed, ankle 3 to 4 months, Jamie Cripps, a serious pec injury, Tom Cole, ankle, your man Garby out for probably the first half of the season.
Devastating.
Campbell Chesser, who all the signs were good. One, ray of hope that we would have put our house on to make us feel better going into round one. He's hurt himself, a ligament injury in his foot. So unlucky, and an impact injury playing footy for us. He's out for 8 to 10 weeks. Greg Clark, who would have been the absolute ideal man in this situation to be able to plug into the team as a big body, mature age recruit, he's out with a shoulder injury. And then Connor West, dealing with some plantar fasciitis. We've got Harry Edwards in COVID protocols, and Liam Ryan has only just jumped out of the COVID situation that he's been in. Are we going to be able to field a team on Sunday?
And then Jack Darling sitting on the sideline.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It sums up how bad the injury list is that I actually added a couple names as you were going through it. I had my list. I forgot about Greg Clark completely, which sums up not how we think about him, because we were all optimistic, as you know, about what he might provide us off the draft. It just sums up how long the injury list is that you can overlook that. It's crazy. I was sitting on Twitter, I don't know, a week to 10 days ago, chatting with mates, talking about the Eagles, and I wasn't bullish about our hopes for the season, but I thought, if the game plan had been modified enough, if that chip was on the shoulder from an attitude point of view of a horrible season last season, with our talent, we could still potentially be a top 8 side. And then a day or two after that, Cole goes down, Yo goes down. Okay, he's just not severe, but you're still talking about a couple of weeks, and then he's got to come back if he's lucky. It's only a couple of weeks. Sheed goes down, Clark goes down, and then Chesser for depth and for excitement as well. And then you think, well, personnel-wise now, we're just being smashed. Now you're putting 3 or 4 players into the 22 who wouldn't have been otherwise, when already there is doubts in the mind about what the team is capable of, when you've already got a couple of players who we know are in their last season, who Josh Kennedy, Shannon Hearns signed up for one last hurrah, who might be thinking, Drewy, geez, this is not exactly the plan. You might have an Andrew Gaff thinking, I stayed at West Coast to give it a crack, and to hopefully have a bit more success. What's going on now? Tim Kelly thinking, am I going to be heavily tagged from round one? Or what does this mean for me? All these doubts start going into your mind when we're in a position where we couldn't have doubts. We had to be so incredibly headstrong to start the season well and then go through it from there and hopefully launch a bid for the finals. It's gone the complete opposite way. And that's the big concern, I think, about our hopes going into the season.
Unbelievable, really, isn't it? Yeah. So I had hopes that we could potentially be in the bottom half of the top 8.
Yeah.
But also accepting that we could be as low as 13th or 14th, all depending on all those factors that you touched on. But if you look at our playing list, there's still a lot of sensational talent on it, and a lot of proven stars of the AFL. We've even left off Brad Shepherd here, of course, who's retired, unfortunately, because of concussion. But we're taking out of our team in round one a bunch of excellent AFL players, a bunch of top 10 players for us. So it's going to make our start to the season incredibly difficult. And I was listening to Nick Rewalt talk about this the other day. He said, and I think Nathan Buckley said something similar, is the injuries are one thing, but now West Coast are being talked about as a potential wooden spoon fodder this season. There's just no way to block that out of the football club. The negativity that is now associated with the team, it filters through. And like it or not, the players are going to hear that. We hope that they respond in a positive way. Whether we've got the personnel to actually have a chip on our shoulder and win games of football early in the year is another thing. Makes round one against Gold Coast absolutely fascinating because, let's face it, the Suns need to win. They need to be better. You can't tell me the Suns aren't coming into the season feeling like they've got a point to prove. And we should as well, but we just have been beset by injuries and circumstance. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. What do you think? What does the best 22 look like? Who's in?
And
who's playing?
They troubled us last season as well, Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And they generally start the season close to their peak. Then they fade a bit later on. So they're always a lot more dangerous early on. So that's a tough one. Yeah, Nick Rewalt knows a hell of a lot more than any of us, that's for sure. But, there's also a chance that, those comments are pinned up on the wall. Kane Corn's comments are pinned up on the wall. Caroline Wilson's comments, this is the worst preseason in the comp, is pinned up on the wall. And they are used as motivation. That is a possibility as well. And then they're sitting there going, this is going to make our story even sweeter, boys. If we start the season well, surprise some people, how good will that be? There is that possibility that we shouldn't write off, but you just worry about how many players we've got to execute that. That's the issue, depth-wise. But, look, the back six should still be okay. Edwards, Barras, Rotham, Hearn, McGovern, Witherden. You're still looking at a pretty decent back six. It's midfield depth that's the worry for me, Drewy. It was already a concern last year. If Shuey doesn't start the season, if Yo definitely won't start. She definitely won't start. You're talking about a Greg Clark being out and a Campbell Chesser being out for that extra depth and run. Then you're looking at Redden, Kelly, Gaff on ball, it just gets a bit thin. Duggan coming back from an injury. You need a 6 deep midfield. And that's where I think, unfortunately, in the first month, we could get caught out. It just puts too much pressure on your forward line and your defense, which numbers-wise aren't too bad. Names-wise aren't too bad. But if you're not winning it enough and using it well enough and you're under pressure in the middle, the other ends can't cope. And then that's the concern, that we just don't start strongly enough in the first month, and then they might just drop their bundle because of where we are as a football club right now, which is an ageing list.
Right, so I'll give you some midfield alternatives. Sam Petrevski-Seton has had a little knee injury. I hope to God that he's had a good preseason and has got enough work in, because if we could inject him into the midfield as an on-baller to start the season, it makes the trade look like absolute genius. And also it gives him a chance to properly play midfield time, significant midfield time, for the first time in probably 4 years. And that's where he started his career. That's where he played his really good junior football. This could be the remaking of Sam Petrevski-Seton if he's fit and ready to go. So as far as we're aware, Garby is going to play in the Amy Community Series match against Fremantle. He's recovered from his injury. So massive opportunity for SPS to make an impact at West Coast. As you mentioned, Andrew Gaff possibly plays on ball. Now, is Luke Edwards fit?
He also had a little concern as well, didn't he?
It would have been a great opportunity to have him start the season probably on one of the wings. Not sure if he's going to be ready to go, but there's going to be Xavier O'Neill. Maybe he gets an extended run in the midfield. I know that he's a little bit smaller, but it's a chance to have a look at him. I mean, obviously we would have loved to have had Connor West in there, but if he's got issues with the foot, then that's not going to happen. What about getting Bunga Hearn in the midfield for some grunt and leadership? Get that big body in there and start banging into people.
I'm not sure he's got the legs at the moment. Liam Duggan's one that can slot in. But again, he's had an interrupted preseason as well. Jack Petrocelli, we worry about the tank, but then you read some good stories about him and how much he's done. But hasn't played there before. You're talking about taking on gun teams in the competition. You need like 4 or 5 ready-made solid midfielders, and that's what we just don't have at the moment. So it's a big worry. Xavier O'Neill, I mean, I've liked him. You just worry about him and where he's at right now, because he should be coming into this preseason. He should be a flyer. He should be someone who's really impressing. Like, if he's not doing it now, how's he going to make it? So it's just hard.
I mean, this is put up or shut up year for Xavier O'Neill.
Really. I mean, Willie Rioli, we know, can go through there, but he's coming off 2 years without footy. So how do you throw him into the midfield straight away? You got to ease him into it. Yeah, Connor West or Greg Clark would have been great, but both of them have got concerns now. So we undermanned there enormously. And then you're taking Oscar Allen and Jack Darling out of the forward line. Look, I think we all know Jake Waterman can do a job. We all know Liam Ryan at his best can pick up a lot of that slack, so that's okay. Jermaine Jones is in an excellent preseason. If Petrocelli delivers on the preseason hype, we've got some good options there. We know Willie can be thrown down there. Bailey Williams has looked good. So I think the forward line can hold its own. We know the back line can. You just worry enormously about that midfield. And then the run on the wings. Yeah, Petrevski-Seton maybe can play that role. Chesser looked earmarked for one of those wing spots. You want to play Gaff there on a wing. You don't want to play him on ball like we had to last season, because he gets caught out. It's not his true role. That feels like where we're going to be found out, and then it could all fall apart from there, unfortunately, Drew. Yeah,
so I wonder if we're going to see a Foley or someone like that up on a wing, because who else is going to play there if Luke Edwards isn't ready to go? I'm not sure where Winder sits in all this. He's one of the guys that I'm hyping up from my point of view. I'm excited to see what he can do. Just a question of what role they want to play him in.
You throw Jackson Nelson in there and you say, like, you're a hardcore, non-stop tagger, just do some serious dirty work. He's the player maybe you just throw in and say, mate, your career, you're 25, 26 now, you're an experienced player. Step up for us in there. Just play ugly. Take out the best player and just give us some sort of physical contest there that can make it a bit easier for the other blokes.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I like the thinking. If you're going to do it, do it, like go all in and make him your number one tagger and get him in at centre bounces and stuff. So, yeah, there's options on the table. And is there, just answer this quickly for me, is there any small part of you that's excited to see whether we've actually got any guts and resilience in us?
Yeah, definitely. Expectations being lowered, you focus on that automatically. All right, well, let's see how much fight we've got. Let's see how much passion they've got. Let's see if what they've said about having a chip on the shoulder in preseason and coming back from the break early and making amends for last year, if any of that rings true. If the game plan has changed, can they get up to speed with that? And let's not forget, this is a massive test for the coach. This sucks for him, but he's got to deal with it. And he's got to try and make the most of it and keep them motivated. Where's he at? Where are his motivation levels at? He's been to the summit with the club. He's been there for a while. He's well paid, obviously. It's a big test for Adam Simpson to get through this. I don't think anyone will condemn him if we finish bottom six, and you can see that we're putting in a shift every week. We just don't have the names early on, and we're going through that rebuild. But if it falls apart again, if the game plan hasn't been modified enough and we're easy to pick apart, and if the motivation's not there, there's a good chance we have a change of coach at the end of the season, be it by his, and we discussed this last campaign, his call or the club. So I'm really interested and excited to watch that in a way as well. How about you?
I think that Simo, behind closed doors, would be relishing this challenge.
Hope so.
That's my instinct. And I disagree. I don't think there's any way that Simo will leave the club at the end of this season.
Okay.
I think that we're now on a journey where the list will be turned over to some, in some respect, building towards that next team to take us to the top. And I think Simo is going to be part of that. That's just my view. That's where I think it's at.
I would agree. But what if we copped some of those defeats we copped last season? Drop your bundle type defeat.
Well, do we have more of an excuse now though? Like,
I don't think there's ever an excuse for effort though, Drewy. I don't think effort was the problem last year. I don't think there's ever an excuse for team just being training cones and being walked past and losing by 100 points in Sydney and 100 points in Cardinia and 100 points. That's the issue.
And that's true. Yeah. I'd be staggered if that happens again.
That will be the question mark. That will be the determining factor, I think, for whether he takes us through the next phase or not.
No, that's a good point. So just quickly, this is how injury-riddled we are. We're flying in people from interstate to play on Sunday. So Patrick Naish, who played sort of 20-odd games for Richmond, he was a father-son. I think his father's sort of pretty famous in Richmond Football Club folklore. Yeah. Played a lot of half-back when he played, I think, in the ones, but then would play midfield in the VFL. And he was sort of in and out of their team, and obviously they've been really strong in the time that he was at the club. Not a bad player from what I could deduce in my time covering Richmond. Someone they would have liked to have had in the team more, but just weren't able to get him in. He's flying in. He's trained, I think, with 2 other clubs this pre-season, most recently St Kilda, I think, and now he's on his way over. Lucky the borders are open, so he can come straight in and get stuck in. And then we've got Tom Joyce as a train-on player. I assume he'll be involved in some way on Sunday. And then we know that Hugh Dixon, basically, they just have to dot the I's and cross the T's, and he'll be a West Coast player. Now, when's the last time a Freo player became a West Coast player? Greg Harding?
Oh, yeah. We had that period there in the Ken Judge years where Harding and Metropolis and...
That was the trade.
That was the trade.
They were in one trade.
In the early 90s, there were quite a few. David Hines.
Barrich.
Spider Burton was on the Eagles list, never played for us, but then became a bit of a Dockers icon. There are a few more that traded in those early 90s. I'm not sure there's been one in the last 10 years, has there?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, he played okay in that practice game, kicked 2 goals. So, and he competed well. Yeah. So Tyler Keitel, who I was hopeful we would give a shot to, he's now back training with Freo. And I was reading about him today, and essentially the feeling is West Coast may have looked at signing Dixon and Keitel, but now they're so worried about their midfield depth with what's happened with the injuries that probably that means only one of those 2 gets the spot, and it looks like Dixon's got it. So, So that's where we're at with our top-ups. Now I was bashing the phone for about 10 minutes trying to get absolute confirmation. But Garby, we reckon once Darling goes to the inactive list, then we've got 3 spots. So you could fill 2 now and leave 1 open for mid-season, or you could go all 3 now if they wanted to.
So it makes sense that we bring in, by the way, we're going to get to your observations later on, positive vibes to chat about amid the doom and gloom, some excellent comments. So we'll get to them at the end of the pod, and that's given us a lot of big talking points. We're looking forward to that. But yeah, Dixon's a smart move. So Allen's down, Darling's gone. Kennedy's not going to play every week. You need to bring another tall in there to help out Jakey Waterman and Bailey Williams and McGovern or Barras if one of them goes forward. You need another option. So Hugh Dixon's a smart one. And then one of Naish or Joyce will be picked up, and maybe both, depending on when the Darling situation is solved. I mean, it's the Joyce aspect is interesting in that they let him go and then have brought him back. It feels like we're reading completely between the lines. Naish might be preferred because they actually tried to get him over earlier, but the borders were closed. Now that they're open, they've managed to bring him in. Obviously, Joyce hasn't convinced them 100% just yet. Naish's draft rating was pretty high. Quick player, good ball user, just slight. Might give us a bit of a wingman outside run option. You know, the role that Campbell Chesser was probably going to take to start the season. He might fit in there. So, yeah, they're going to bring some players through. It's exciting. Hopefully we see them perform on Sunday and put their hand up in a strong way. But Dixon looks like that's a done deal as long as he gets through Sunday without an injury. Maybe he's signed already. They just haven't announced it yet. Who knows?
So I know Simo's chatting to the media at some stage this week. So hopefully we'll get an update on a couple of, say, like Luke Shuey. We don't know exactly where he's at with his hamstring. I mean, it would be a massive boost if we could have our captain playing round 1. No doubt about that. In a word, how are you feeling? Give me one word how you're feeling about round 1 v the Gold Coast Suns.
Apprehensive.
Scared?
No, I wouldn't go scared.
I'm not scared.
I think we're good enough to win.
Yeah.
But I'm fearful of losing.
I think it's going to be a close game, but it's not going to be a super pretty game.
Where do you think we'll finish now, Drewy? After all this, after the latest flurry of injuries, where do you think the Eagles will end up finishing come the end of the campaign?
15th.
Yeah. I had us as, prior to the Cole, Sheed, Yeo, Chesser, Clark injury run, I had us sitting somewhere between 6th and 10th. Now it's, 10th and 14th, that bracket. And then we moved down a bit.
Well, I'm interested to see what we do. Like if the season's getting away from us at, 3 and 7 or something, do you just embrace the slide?
Yeah. So I want to talk about, that's interesting. I wonder if Shannon Hearn and Josh Kennedy hang up their boots halfway through the season and say, look, we signed up to give it a crack. It hasn't worked out that way.
I would hate that.
Yeah. It would also make sense. I think it's more likely with Josh than Shannon. They don't do it because they've had a gutful. It's just like, it's time for young players to have that crack. The coach wants to play young players. We're not going to be there next year. You might as well start that now. I mean, you can see that happening, right? If we're in a guaranteed position to not make the 8 at the halfway point of the campaign, they go, let's just call it quits now and play the kids. And the coaching staff would arguably prefer that.
Well, you might get to round 14 and both their bodies are shot and they're like, we haven't got anything left. And then you do a big farewell game at Optus Stadium and send them out.
Yeah.
And so I guess I can say that I would hate to think that it got to mid-season and Simo's like, thanks for making the effort, but I don't want to play you anymore. It has to be player-driven.
Yeah. I'd imagine
we can't disrespect them on the way out.
I'd imagine it would be, but it might be, the players come to him. It's so sad that we're talking about this now, but those are the discussions that Eagles fans are having. And hopefully the first month of the season means that we don't have these conversations, but that's the status at the moment. But, it might be a situation where they go to the coach and say, look, what do you reckon? Like, would you prefer to play kids? And he's like, listen, if you want to carry on, I'm happy to play you because you're legends. I'm not going to force you out. But if you're not 100% there, then there's benefit in us playing kids. It might be that mutual discussion. And they go, well, maybe that's just a smart thing moving forward. I want to talk about the concept of tanking / rebuilding, Truey.
Yep.
As you and a lot of people will know, it's been a changing discussion in footy. So I've already seen some Eagles fans saying, let's tank and get the number one pick, right? The concept of tanking has changed in the AFL from the period around 2006, 7, 8, probably to 2010, right? When the D's had that big scandal and were punished, and Carlton were alleged to have tanked in games as well. And we had this, the Cruiser Cup and all those sorts of things. There's a difference between rebuilding and actually trying to lose games. Melbourne tried to lose football games to get the number one pick. Carlton were happy to lose football games to get the number one pick. Ultimately, we've learned that is not the best way to prepare your football club because it actually develops a losing culture. And it took Melbourne 10 years to get over it. Carlton's still not over it, arguably. So people have realised you can't actually do that and have success in the next 3-4 years when those draft picks come through. What you can do, though, is say, well, we're not going to be a top 8 side. Let's play the kids, but still try and win every game. Still go out there with 100% intent to win the football match. You're just playing the kids slightly earlier than normal. I believe the Eagles did that when we got our early draft picks and we picked up Natanui, I think in the Gaff the year after. I remember watching us, and even though we won a wooden spoon, I never felt like the team wasn't trying to win. They might have put some players on ice early on. They might have played a few more kids, but they went out there, John Worsfold as coach, and tried to win the football game. They just weren't very good and therefore couldn't. If we do go through that phase, that's the way we would approach it, you would think, undeniably, is try and win the game, just maybe with some younger players, which therefore makes it harder.
Yeah, no, mate, I'm with you. And there's no such thing as tanking in the same sense that there was in that period. Like, when Travis Johnson was being put in the back pocket, or they were switching, Alistair Nicholson? What was his name? Matt Nicholson? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were switching him from fullback to full forward or whatever, playing Daniel Ward, who was a halfback flanker, as a forward player. So, that sort of shit stuff. Brock McLean talked about it as well, about how that happened at the Blues. And did it happen at both? Was he was at Melbourne and then at Carlton? Yeah. Anyway, but it was Melbourne that he talked about specifically. So that's obviously not going to happen. And what I've said, and I've said this before to you, is that I think our list is too good to finish 18th. Yeah. But when you bring in injuries and all that sort of stuff, then that changes things. But do you think a core of Yo, Kelly, Shuey, Natanui, Kennedy, Barrass, McGovern, Gaff, all that, are they going to let us finish 18th?
I don't think so. No.
Look at Hawthorn's team. It's disgusting. There's no way we're going to finish below Hawthorn.
You wouldn't have thought so.
So my view is that we're not going to slide all the way down, and there's still enough players on our list to help us win games of footy. And I've left out other good players when I've lifted all those off. But the core of the team is still experienced and talented. So, yeah, we're still going to probably win between 5 and 10 games. And 5 is only if there's more catastrophic injury stuff.
And if we have a good 4 to 6 weeks, somehow break even, just manage to break even. And then you get Allen back, and then you get Cripps back. And you've got the likes of Greg Clark, returning soon enough, and you start to get a bit more depth in your playing ranks. Who's to say they won't sit there and go, hang on, we're in a decent spot here. We've got some players coming back. A couple of guys have jumped up and are in good form. We can still give this a crack with our guns. That is still a possibility that should not be outruled by Eagles fans, because there still are some competitive beasts in there, headlined by Elliot Yeo. And if he comes back, he's only missed a couple of weeks and he's all right, then great.
And you just got to make sure.
We don't have hopes for, unfortunately. It just seems like he's going to keep getting these injuries, right?
Yeah. Well, I hope not. But you just got to make sure that, we hope Chess is going to get 10 games in. Brady Hoff's going to get 10 games in. Foley 15.
Big raps on Brody on Hoff. Nick went out of his way to mention him as someone who's really shone in pre-season. That's someone to get excited about. He could be a round 1 vaulter.
I don't know if he's physically quite ready though. I'm guessing it's one thing to be a star at training, but then round 1 you have Matty Rao run through you, or Sammy Day run through, or, Witts puts a knee into you in a marking contest. And anyway, but it's good to hear positives about him, because I think we even mentioned at the time, it seemed like we grabbed him, like no one else was really aware of him, and we just sort of go, yeah, we like this guy. So that's a positive. But yeah, we're probably gonna slide, but I don't think it's going to be 2-20. I don't think the playing list allows that to happen. So are we ready for the positivity yet?
Yeah, let's go through a few.
I'm going to start. I've scrolled down to the bottom.
Okay.
And do you want to start at the top of the notifications, and we'll work our way through?
We'll meet in the middle. You start from the bottom there.
Loz, I'm calling it now. Foley is going to have a breakout year. Loz, I'm right with you. I bloody love Luke Foley, and I'm excited to see what he does.
Big Axel Foley, yeah. Well, he's a good chance to play round one. I'd like to see him on that wing. I think the back
he's got to play.
The back six we went through, looks like it's still pretty settled with Edwards, Barras, Hearn, Rotham, McGovern, and then Witherden will play. So there's a chance for him. Obviously, he can slot in there off the bench, but chance for him to step up on a wing and use his kicking penetration to be a bit of a find for us. Yeah, I think they throw him in there. He'd be very unlucky to miss out, you would think.
Yeah.
This from Julian. Looking forward to Samo Petrevski-Seaton. By the way, since when has he become officially Samo? It was always Sam Petrevski-Seaton, and now I see him being named Samo all the time. Was that like a media directive?
Must be. I mean, that was sort of like the nickname at Carlton and stuff. Like Bolts used to call him Samo in press conferences back in the day.
But his name is Sam Petrevski-Seaton. Now it's just always Samo. So maybe they said he wants to be called that, or that is, I don't know. Anyway, looking forward to Samo Petrevski-Seaton being played in the guts, see what an extended run in his natural position can do for him and his form. Yeah, I don't know if he'll start on ball, but I think he's a big wing chance, and then, to step through there at times. He was back on the training track yesterday, I saw, so the injury isn't serious. That's one bit of positivity out of the preseason on that front. Yeah, really keen to see what he's about. He looks thin. He looks switched on. Hopefully he can be the player that Carlton thought he would be when they took him with pick 5.
Yeah, I've already said I want to get him in there. This is his chance. Ghost of Subiaco Oval. One positive, very low expectations, so losing won't be a surprise. I'm looking forward to seeing how much resilience we have. We've been pretty soft since 18, so it'll be great to see how we deal with being up against it, seeing the young players get a good run. Can't wait for Chesser. Yeah, we echo your sentiments. Ghost?
I was so down about our hopes last night. I was flicking around on Foxtel when I saw the grand final mini was on from 2018. I watched it from start to finish. I was like, I need a pick-me-up. So I went through it all. Wonderful. This from Gentle Ben. I like this. Really astute comment. With the forced forward line changes, Allen, Cripps, Darling, maybe we employ a new style with a heavy emphasis on smalls. What a great time to have that 1-2 punch of Ryan and Rioli back in action. The team stands taller when they're on song. Can't wait for it. Yeah, maybe it is a slightly different approach. Maybe you play Ryan deep and you use his unique style to mix it up for the opposition. Waterman's a hybrid key forward, like he can play there, but he can also get up the ground and onto the wings. Maybe you throw some of the smaller guys, Langdon, Petrevski-Seaton, Petruccelli, when they're going through there, to go a bit of the mosquito fleet and upset matchups for the opposition, rather than just throwing Hugh Dixon in if you're not confident about him being able to produce, or Bailey Williams or whatnot. Go with the smaller guys who have played some more footy. I like that, and just try and get some pace down there.
Yeah, and I think we even said towards the end of last season, if Josh Kennedy was to retire, that would force us to sort of reinvent our forward line structure a little bit. And it has, in the end, it's been forced upon us through injury. So, yeah, I'm totally with you. We'll see some medium, small, some hybrids, which is good. Just a quick comment from Matt. He says 50% capacity at the stadium means there's less chance of me crying in public on game day. Well, Matt, I've cried tears into beers in Geelong a few times, but no, I hope that you still get a ticket to the game. Greg Mullins, Bailey Williams to be amongst the first picked this season. Daniel Garb getting excited to back up Nick and to help in the absence of Darling and Oscar, expecting a breakout season from 4BW, big, bad, bustling Bailey Williams.
I'm taking credit for that. We got it trending.
Yeah.
Big bad bustling Bailey Williams. It's the nickname that is starting to get around a little bit. So good on Greg for catching on board. That's what he's all about. He's going to be our physical presence, our intimidator down there, and he's looking really strong, isn't he, for a round one debut to be the support to Nick and then another option up forward. He can take a clunk. We know that. He's a pretty good kick. He's at that age now where he wants to be thrown in. I think he's got to play round one and just be that option for us. So, yeah, he's an exciting one to watch. This one from Stacey, a positive, Ryan and Rioli on the field together again. One magic moment from either of these guys and the whole squad gets a lift and feeds off that buzz. They can take the game away from opponents so quickly. And that is true. I love watching Cozzy Pickett for Melbourne. There's an intangible energy there that few other players can replicate. Like Cozzy Pickett kicks a goal that's worth 3 because he energizes his teammates. He energizes the crowd. Willie Rioli can do the same. We know Flying Ryan can do the same, yet disappointing season last year, mainly due to injury. Watching that 2018 grand final again, Drew, I've said it a few times. Willie Rioli was the difference maker. Like that goal early on, the goal for Cripps, whenever he touched the footy, he made something happen. Hopefully he's at a pretty good standard soon. The word coming out of the club is pretty good on that front, but that is something to be really positive about, watching them up forward together, because they can split things open in an instant, and one goal from them can be worth 3 with the energy it provides.
Fascinated to see if Brian Taylor can tell the difference between Liam Ryan and Willie Rioli this season. He gets another crack at it, but West Coast fans, we absolutely love them. And just if Channel 7 can just lift their game and come along for the ride, that would be good. Club is in a very good position financially. This is Lee. Shrewd and smart business practices have secured the long-term future of the club. That's a positive for us. And West Coast obviously have always been financially in a good spot. Hopefully that can continue to breed on-field success, Garby, as we move forward. Cassie as well. We get to see more of our younger and newer players and see what they can do. And yeah, we absolutely echo those sentiments. What do you got for us?
This one from Chris Burnham. JK to kick his 700th this season. He's on 675. It's a very good chance. Only needs 25 more to kick 700, which would be obviously something to celebrate as well. And that's a little target for him early in the season, maybe just to keep him motivated. I'm sure he's probably a little bit downcast by all of this, as Shannon Hearn would be, gets himself into great nick, wants to have a big crack at it, and everyone starts falling over. This JK's got that 700 he can focus on, get that all right. Where are we at after that? It's a great one for him to zone in on. And it's a shame seeing Jack Darling sitting there on 450 in our goals list. So it's Kennedy 675, Sumich 514, Darling 450. I mean, he would have been a great chance in 2 seasons to overtake Suma and go into second all time. And looks like it's not going to happen, but we've discussed all of that. Maybe we'll touch on it again at the end and see where it lies. But yeah, you look at that and you just think, I don't think he's a player who's got the credit he's deserved for what he's actually done on the football field. We know he's not the smartest footballer of all time. We know he's had a couple of moments in his career that have been mishaps. But averaging 1.9 goals a game, 450 and 236. He's the third best key forward the Eagles have ever had, and he doesn't get his just desserts, I think, for what he's done on the field over the last 10 years.
We've discussed this before. He's outside of West Coast. There's got a bit of a stigma to him because of the moments he's had in grand finals, but there's not that many. I haven't got the list in front of me, but if you look at all the key forwards who have been drafted since Jack Darling, I'm sure that aren't many of them who have 450 goals to their name and a premiership. So he's doing okay. Yeah. We hope he's back at some stage. Tanking isn't the end of the world if that is the path we take. And then G. Smith says, I have no idea if the next draft is strong, mind you. Yeah, and we don't, you barely know 5 days before what's going to happen, really. So that's down the track, and it won't be tanking. It will be a team that is not good enough to win.
Yeah, rebuilding. Paul Jones, do we just play Ryan and JK out of the square, use Willie and Waterman as lead-up half forwards? We've touched on that. This one from Rob, plenty of positives. Willie back and still has the magic. TK and JJ looking fit and clean. Didn't Jermaine Jones look good in the intra-club highlights?
I like him.
Yeah, I think he's like nailed on, locked on half forward through the midfield. He's been a real impressive performer.
He's tough. I like how tough he is.
Very good footballer. He's just been inconsistent so far. And I think he struggled, Jermaine Jones, as you might remember last season and season before. We had so many of those options. So we had Jermaine Jones, Jack Petruccelli, Brendan Archie, Zach Langdon. Those 4 players were sort of jostling for that role. Archie's gone. Petch is going along solidly. JJ seems to have just really stabilised now, and he seems more confident about the kind of player he wants to be. And Zach Langdon seems like he's got a slightly different role as well, maybe more of a pinch hitter in the midfield, as a tougher player. And JJ's that creative one. So that's exciting. He speaks about SPS to play this weekend. Hugh Dixon to come from the clouds and showed more than Brander ever did. Brander's looking pretty good for the Giants in pre-season. I think that might come back to bite us, Drewy. So that's a bit of a shame, but so be it. And we're going to get a really good look at some of our kids this year, says Rob. So he's got plenty of positives. He's happy about it, and good on you, mate. Glass half full.
Yeah, I don't know how much time I want to dedicate to talking about Jared Brander. I think we've expended enough energy. I hope he goes well. Candice, is it time the club hardened up and put Jack on the inactive list and stopped hoping for him to return? Really strong draft this year. I think finishing low and getting a high pick is good. West Coast do not think that Jack Darling will be playing this season. They are just waiting until the date, which is coming up. I think it's next week. So there's absolutely no hope of him getting a vaccine and coming to the club for this season. They're just waiting until the last day to give them as much time as possible then to look at all the extra players they might be able to sign. So I'll just quickly touch on this. I'll touch on this now just while we're on Darling. I spoke to Gil McLaughlin yesterday, as in Wednesday at the Fox Footy launch, and said, sort of in a roundabout way, because I wasn't actually allowed to ask him anything controversial, but I just quickly slid it in at the end of the chat. Are you expecting to be able to welcome Jack Darling back next season if he's not vaccinated? Now, Gil, of course, didn't answer the question exactly how I wanted him to, but that's his job. He said, we'll welcome Jack back into the AFL with open arms, but Jack knows he needs to get vaccinated. So that's the official line from the AFL. It is not beyond the realms of possibility that unvaccinated players will be playing in the AFL next season. So because we've seen around the world already that things are starting to soften.
Yeah.
So what is mandated for this season may not be mandated for next season. But there's no way that publicly the AFL are going to admit that, but it is a fact. So we could see Jack back next season without a vaccination. We also may not, but that's on the table.
But Novavax is not an option for him. That was not the saviour we thought it might be.
No. He doesn't want to get vaccinated.
Yeah. Well, okay. A grand shame, but we'll see what the club does with it. I mean, the Eagles are probably sitting there thinking it's your decision. We'll wait until we're not going to make this decision for you. Like, I don't think the club has to make the call for him. It's his decision. It's always been his decision. So why would we preempt anything when it's always been Jack Darling's decision? There is a date there. It's your decision. We will go by that, Jack. We'll continue trying to talk to you if we can, get in your head if we can, talk you around it, because that's our job. But ultimately, it is your decision. So we're not going to make it for you. I get the point Candice is making. It's a good one. But it's always been that way. Why would you change it now and take the decision away from him? Leave it in his hands until the point in time where it's no longer his decision because the deadline's closed. I think that's how we should do it. I like that. This from Shane Beaton, 2 games in Melbourne in the opening 4 rounds. Footy starved, keen to see my Eagles in action again. Good on you, mate. Get out there, support the team. I like this from Anthony Smith as well. The chance for Barras to kick his first AFL goal. Probably likely to happen the way things are going.
Yeah, well, it's an intriguing situation. I mean, personally, I wouldn't pay Barras up forward. I would just leave him in the back line. But I like that maybe we're trying to open up the possibility of having him as a swing man. Anyway, who knows?
Maybe they know what McGovern can do up forward. It's like, we're going to give Tommy a run, get him used to it in case we have to. Like, what if Gov goes down? And we've got Harry Edwards and, the back line's holding up okay. We just don't have any key forward options. Let's give Tommy a run up there. Or the system we play is just better suited to Gov being down back. Have a little go and get a bit more familiar with it. I would much prefer McGovern and have Harry Edwards and Tom Barrass as our key defenders. But there's obviously some method to it. We'll see how it pans out for round one.
I think we're almost done. Just Fishke has said JK to kick 10 for mum again. I hope so. And hopefully the 700th is involved in that. Ryan says, thank God JK and Bunga have stayed around for another year. I just wanted to say, because I didn't say this before, these are two of the best players in our club's history. Yeah. So let's take every opportunity to watch them and enjoy them play football, because Shannon Hearn, we're not going to see another country boy from SA kicking 60, 70-metre bullets out of defence ever again. And Kennedy's the best goal kicker in our club's history. So, every time he fires and takes a great pack mark, slots a goal from the boundary, let's just enjoy it. We can get joy out of that this season, no matter what's happening results-wise. And let's send him out, hopefully, on a positive.
Yeah. So it's round one against the Suns. I mean, we'll probably speak before then. Round two away to North. Round three, Freo. Round four, Collingwood. I mean, there's not round five, Sydney. I mean, we could win three of those games.
We're not going to beat Freo. We're not going to beat Freo.
I don't think we'll beat Freo, but I think...
When's the next time we win a derby?
Yeah, they're looking good.
2026?
We should beat Gold Coast. We can beat North. We can beat Collingwood. Sydney at home, tricky, but we can beat them potentially. Then it gets Port away, which is tough. I don't think Richmond will have as good a season as many people think. We got them round 8. We could be 4-5 or 3-5 after 8 rounds and in an okay spot with players to come back. That's my positive, Drewy. I think that the draw is kinder to us than it could be. So do you have a positive you want to leave on, mate, apart from the other stuff we've mentioned, of course?
Garby, the positive I want to leave on is seeing and hearing you around the country calling AFL on the radio. That is what I'm looking forward to this season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it immensely as well. It should be a lot of fun on the ABC.
Mate, it's been good.
Broadcaster. Thanks, Drew. It has been good. It's been nice to go through it all. It's been therapeutic, how it has been far too often over the last couple of seasons. It's been therapeutic to go through it all.
It's been good to catch up. We'll reconvene ahead of the coast off, and hopefully we'll have some more information about Shuey and how the boys go this weekend, and we'll break it all down. But we're not far away now.
Looking forward to watching them in the Pracky on Sunday. Hopefully a much better showing against Freo. Let's be honest, it can't get much worse. Thank you very much, Nest family, for all your submissions. Thanks for listening. Give us your feedback on the show and sign up to the Patreon as well. Let's hope for a big 2022 as good as it can be. Thanks for listening.
This week at Safeway, shop the 10 for $10 produce sale. With the 10 for $10 produce sale, get items like large avocados, mangoes, green, red, orange, or yellow bell peppers, cucumbers, large lemons, or 16-ounce bags of Signature Farms baby peeled carrots for the member price of just $1 each. Plus, select meats like Signature Farms 80% lean ground beef and Signature Select extra meaty pork loin back ribs are buy one, get one free this week. Hurry in before these deals are gone. Visit Safeway.com for more deals.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.